Hi everyone. So I'm working on this drawing of 3 crows and I've completed the first crow. And I'm coming in here now with my 9H pencil and I'm going over the feathers on the bird's head. I use a 9H much in the same way that I would use a stylus. It's an extremely hard pencil. And despite the fact that when there's nothing else on the paper besides a 9H, it looks a little dark, compared to a B pencil, whether it's an HB or a 2B or 4B, doesn't matter what, the 9H essentially looks almost white when compared to the darkness of a B pencil. So these lines that I'm pressing hard, I'm pressing pretty hard on the paper to get these lines in. Basically, they're scratching the paper and they're indenting the paper much like a stylus would do. So when I come back over this now with my darker B pencil, it's going to give me these feathers that I'm drawing on now are going to turn out to be very light, and essentially they will be the highlights of the feathers on the head. So now that I have these lighter feathers in, I'm going to come back in with my 2B, and I'm not even really pressing very hard, and you can immediately see how much darker the 2B is than the 9H was. And I'm coming in here and I'm just making little lines that are leaving spaces in between. And if I do happen to put the line in where the 9H pencil is, it's not going to cover it. It will leave it as a highlight. So that's the way that I get these highlighted feathers in. So I'm just going to continue working the same area, and I will do this slowly and I will do it in layers. So now I'm working with the 2B, and I'll come back later once I've completed this entire area with the 2B, and I will come back in with a 4B and go even darker. But for now, I just want to get the basic appearance of these feathers on the head. And anytime that I'm doing hair or fur or feathers of any kind, I'm always putting my strokes in, the pencil is laying down in the same direction that the hair or the feathers are flowing in. So I wouldn't want to be doing circles or, going against the grain of the feather up and down kind of thing, because I want to give the illusion of feathers or of hair or of fur. And I only get that by going in the same direction that those feathers or fur are growing in. So that's really one of the secrets to doing hair or fur, is you want to keep your strokes going in the same direction. So I'm going to speed through this process, speed up the video a little bit, and then I'll come back in with the darker pencil so you can see how I go back in darker once this is done. Okay, so I'm pretty much done doing the head with the 2B pencil, And so now I'm going to come back in with the 4B. Okay, so I've got my 4B now, and I'm using the same basic pressure that I was using with the 2B. And my lead, I don't have a lead in here. There we go. So, coming back in here. So I'm not being careful to go over the same strokes that I did with the 2B. I'm just coming back in here and just doing new strokes. And they will either fall on top of or beside the other strokes that I've done. And it gives me that effect of layering that I want. So you can already see how much darker it's getting. And I make sure that I lay the strokes in pretty close together. Oopsie, and I just snapped my lead. There we go. So when you're working with the B grades, it can be a little bit difficult because they're very, very soft, and they either crumble or break very easily, especially with these I'm using 5mm pencils here, and I like them just because I don't have to sharpen them, so it's nice. But they do snap sometimes if I press too hard. So you can already see here how much darker this area is from the rest of it. So I'm just going to continue building in these darks. And you want to occasionally take a step back and make sure that you're getting the effect that you want. It's really hard to see really what you're doing when you're up close. It's like too up close and personal. You need to get some distance. That goes for pretty much everything in life, I think. It's nice to get a little bit of perspective and stand back. And when I do that, I can tell if there is any spots that I'm missing, or where I've gone too dark or too light, and then I can go back in and fix that. So that's really all there is to doing feathers on a head, because the feathers on the heads of most birds, if not all birds, I'm not sure, but I think they're pretty much all the same. These tiny, short, sleek little feathers. And in the case of a crow or a raven, sometimes they get a little bit puffed up, ruffled up. Well, most birds, I think, have that ability. Even little sparrows, sometimes you can see that they're a little bit puffed up. So, almost done. And so you can see now where I have gone in with the 9H and either left some spaces in between, or else the dark is covering up the 9H so it's not completely dark. So now I'm just standing back a little bit, having a look and seeing if I want to darken any areas. It's a little bit, I think we've got a little bit of glare here, so it's a little bit hard to see, but this area here is in glare. It's the light is shining on it. Well, this whole top area, really. It's really difficult with graphite to get a good picture where there's no glare showing, because it's such a reflective medium. So if it looks like it's lighter than the rest, it's actually not. It's just some of that glare coming through. Okay. So that's basically it for the head. I may come back in and darken it up just by lightly going over some of the lighter spots. And I'm going to darken them up, but they're still going to be lighter than the darkest areas. There we go. Just like that. And that gives me the dark effect that I'm